Hello, hello. I'm Casey,
And I'm Fallon.
and this is
Render the Darkness.
We are coming at you with our last case of Arizona.
Arizona
tea. Anyway, not sponsored.
That was good tea, though.
Was good tea. Anyways, we say was as if they don't still make it.
Yeah,
they absolutely still make it.
Okay, so
anyway,
is good tea.
Is good tea. I have no idea. That sounds like one whole word. Good tea.
Yeah. I bet they can't tell what kind of episode this is going to be.
Okay, well, like I said, this is our last case in Arizona, and this is the ghosts. That sounds weird. Paranormal case for Arizona. Oh, I better figure out how to say that other word real quick because it's in here a lot. So, not to be cliche and do the expected with the paranormal of Arizona, but since Fallon did do Johnny Ringo in her last episode, I thought it only fitting to do an episode on the ghosts of Tombstone. Kind of tying those two episodes together.
Yeah.
Before we get started, let me go ahead and give you your fun fact for this episode. Fun fact.
I'm going to start doing.
That's going to be your catch-all, yeah?
Yeah, this.
What about the episodes when I don't do one? Then what you gonna do?
That.
That way.
Makes me sad.
Okay, so the fun fact for this episode, I decided to do a gun fact because, Tombstone, so it seemed fitting for this one. Beretta, established in 1526 in Brescia, Italy, I hope I said that right, is the world's oldest gun company.
Ooh. Beretta?
Beretta is the company.
Beretta. So are they the ones that do the Berettas are the ones with the knives at the end, right? With the gun, they had like the knife.
I don't know. I didn't look into the fact other than to make sure it was true.
I was just curious.
I know that you can get like a Beretta pistol. I don't know.
Maybe I'm thinking of something different.
I have no idea.
I don't either.
Anybody who knows about that kind of thing, if you want to chime in and let us know, we would appreciate it. I'm genuinely curious now, and I'm far too lazy to Google.
Me too.
Tonight.
Yes. Because we're doing this at night.
Recording it at night. You guys won't get to see it until Tuesday.
We're right this time.
Yeah. Are we?
We're like,
Pretty sure we're right this time about that. Okay, so most people are familiar in one way or another with at least a little bit of the history of Tombstone, Arizona. But if you're not, it was considered by most people to be the town that wouldn't die. This town survived just about everything a town could in the short period of time when it was the most active. From shootouts to robbings to floods to fires to some of the most prominent gunslingers riding through.
yeah.
Its history isn't the only thing Tombstone is known for. It's also known for its high... Oh, there's a Tombstone pizza, isn't there? Not sponsored,
Sorry.
but yeah, Tombstone pizza.
I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry.
No, it is. It's a... Yeah. For shoresies.
I don't think that's what it's known for. But
Maybe. Pizza. I don't know. Anyway, another thing besides its history and pizza and tea. Wait. No, not tea. Arizona is known for the tea. Not necessarily Tombstone. Where is that tea coming out of? Other than Arizona. Like, what town in Arizona? See, another thing to learn about. See? I need to start, making a list of things I want to learn about after we do a case. The fact that I have to do that tells you what a terrible researcher I am.
Oh, no. It's just, you don't think about that kind of stuff until, they start talking about it, and then questions get asked, and she's like, You
True.
start thinking more about it.
True. It's the benefit of having two separate brains.
Yeah.
But other than pizza and history, it is also known for its high volume of paranormal activity. In this episode, we're going to go over some of the infamous locations in the town and who is thought to have never left. First, we're going to talk about perhaps the most heard of location in the town, which is the infamous Birdcage Theater.
Birdcage. Tombstone,
Arizona. We just talked about this place in our last episode, Johnny Ringo, as I mentioned a minute ago. Thought I'd slide back in there one more time and just remind you guys, if you have not heard that case yet, it is out.
Yes.
You can hear it.
Yes.
You can watch it. Yes. You can learn all about it. You can spend more time with us. You're welcome. Anyway, the Birdcage Theater. This theater was highly popular during the days it was open, and it's said to still be open. And it is definitely still open today, and it's said to still be occupied by visitors of the past. Let's go over a little bit of history of this historic place before we talk about who is thought to still be residing there.
Okay.
The Birdcage Theater was originally owned by Lottie and William, or Billy Hutchison. Billy had previously been a variety performer, so his dream for the theater was to bring family variety shows in. He had seen how successful something like that could be during his time that he spent in San Francisco, so his hope was to bring that kind of a life into Tombstone. The doors to the theater officially opened on December 26, 1881. Right off the bat, the theater was unique and unlike anything Tombstone had seen before. They were open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which immediately made it a nighttime hotspot, as a lot of the places in the town at the time weren't open late at night at all. They also initially tried to do things with the whole community in mind, to draw whole families in, and in order to do that, they would need the women of the town to support what they were doing. So they thought the best way to do that and get the women to kind of bring in their kids was that they initially tried to host a ladies' night where, and it was specified in several sources. I'm not saying this to be disrespectful in any way, but it was said very specifically they were trying to draw in the respectable women of the town. Those women, and those women only, could come and watch the night shows for free. That was a very short-lived idea because it just wasn't economically feasible to keep that going. They weren't making any money with doing that, and it wasn't drawing the women in like they'd hoped that it would. Yeah. Especially when a large portion of the customer base they had were coal and silver miners.
Yeah.
The Birdcage ultimately ended up being kind of a jack of all trades in the way of entertainment. It was, of course, a theater, but it was also a saloon, a gambling hall. It provided entertainment in the way of an adult nature, and it was a place for gunslingers to take out their aggression. They offered a large variety of acts, from comedians to wrestling to masquerade balls to singers to magic. There were 12 balcony boxes that were the location of the ladies of the night, we'll call them. I actually think at that time they were referred to as painted ladies. But they were to provide extra guest entertainment. There was an upstairs and a downstairs. The cellar was downstairs where they kept all their alcohol. Fun fact, this theater is also home to what's said to have been the longest poker game in the world, lasting a whopping 8 years and 4 months. Another source said 8 years, 4 months, and 3 days.
A card game?
A poker game. And that was running 24 hours a day. That wasn't like they'd play for a while, take a break, and then come back. Like, this poker game did not stop.
Wow, that's 8 years.
Yeah.
How?
I have no idea, but that's pretty insane. And I thought that was pretty interesting. Another fun fact is that the theater, although they didn't really film in Tombstone when they made the movie, the theater was featured in the Tombstone film, made I think in 1993, starring Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer. Um, in fact, some of the most famous scenes were supposed to have been taken place in the Birdcage Theater. Even though, again, like I said, I know before anybody tries to tell me it wasn't filmed there, I know it wasn't filmed there. I'm just saying that the scenes were placed there.
Right.
I should also probably mention that the theater had bullet holes basically everywhere, mostly because of, gunfighters of the time.
Mm.
Over time, instead of being known for their fantastic family variety shows as originally hoped, the theater began being more known as a central location for violence. Murders, fights, and suicides. Because it was open 24 hours, the nighttime hours became known as the wildest spot in the West. Before its closing in 1892, Billy and Lottie sold the theater to Hugh McCrum and John Strofe. The downfall of a theater started at the same time and for the same reason the town itself started to crumble, and that was because of the issues with the mines. They hit some water in the mines and had to begin pumping the water in order to keep the water moving and clear from the mines. So they built a pumping station, which these things combined altered the price of silver greatly, which also really affected economy. They were able to get the water in the mines stable for a while, but then, unfortunately, on May 26th, 1886, May 26th, 1886, the pumping station caught fire and burned to the ground, causing most of the citizens of the town to leave.
Dang, that sucks.
The theater would officially close its doors for the first time in 1892. I know that is not anywhere near the bulk of the history of this theater, but it's like the basic history. If you want to know more about the detailed history, there are a lot of great sources out there with tons of information, some of which I will be attaching to the show notes. So feel free to click on those and read a little bit more about it if that's something that you're interested in. But for now, we have a basic idea of the theater's history, so let's talk about what we're here for this episode, and that is the hauntings. Just who is thought to have never left? The theater had countless guests that passed through the doors, such as the Earps, Doc Holliday, and Johnny Ringo, just to name a few of the more popular names. This theater is not only a historical gem full of history, but it's also a paranormal hotbed. There have been seemingly endless reports of different accounts of paranormal activity. Some of the things reported to have occurred include smells of cigar smoke, people being kissed on the cheek or tapped on the shoulder, the smell of whiskey, floating orbs, people hearing a piano playing, yelling, whispering, laughter, cold spots while walking through the theater or on the stage. People also report hearing voices whispering and laughing on the stage itself, not only around the theater, but actually on the stage. There have also been tons of reports over the years of people seeing the spirits of gunslingers, cowboys, gamblers, and prostitutes. Let's get into more specific spirits that are thought to still be living in the theater. Perhaps the most famous and possibly the most frequently cited spirit is that of Madame Margarita. The story goes that Margarita, who was employed at the birdcage, was suspected of stealing customers from another madame by the name of Little Gertie, who worked at an opposing location. More specifically, Little Gertie suspected Margarita of entertaining Little Gertie's lover.
Ooh.
Little Gertie's suspicions seemed to be confirmed when Margarita sat on the lap of said lover right in front of Little Gertie.
Oh no.
Little Gertie responded by grabbing Margarita's hair and proceeding to stab Margarita in the heart with a stiletto. I read that in every source, so I'm going to say it's accurate.
A shoe?
unusual, I know,
Oh my
but
gosh.
that is what it was said,
Ow.
that she used a stiletto. Which I didn't even, this can make me probably sound really dumb, but I didn't even know they had those back then. In the late 1800s, I didn't know they had stilettos. Like, I know they had heeled boots, but I didn't know they had, like, high heels. You know what I mean? Does that make me sound dumb?
No,
Probably.
no. I'm just thinking of like how much force it would take to stab somebody in the chest with a
Well, it's
shoe.
not only did she stab her in the chest, but it's claimed that she actually stabbed, like, her heart out. Like, she stabbed her so viciously and so fast and hard that, like,
Oh, like it. Oh,
yeah,
ah,
that's what it says.
with a shoe.
The high with a stiletto,
I
yeah.
don't know if you heard that correctly. A shoe. Sorry.
Now you know what Fallon looks like when she's in shock. Not a big change, but she's leaning. Oh, she's also going way back.
Yeah, I don't need to do that because that,
Little Gertie did flee, but was caught. However, crazily enough, little Gertie was not charged for this murder, despite there being many eyewitnesses, because there was no weapon found at the time, and they claimed they couldn't charge her without a weapon.
But they've seen her do it.
The eyewitnesses, I don't know if they just refused to talk or
Maybe she was just really,
don't know.
really, really good at her job.
Maybe. I don't know, but for whatever unknown reason, because they did not find the shoe on her, she wasn't charged.
Okay.
But Margarita is not only believed to be the one responsible for the cheek kissings that people have reported, but she's also believed to be the spirit that some of the people have claimed to have seen in her undergarments opening the stage curtain.
Oh, little free peep show there.
Yeah.
All right.
I will say, while I'm on Margarita and Little Gertie, I did stumble across a little fun fact about them. Gertie's stiletto that she used in the murder was actually found about a century after the incident behind the Birdcage Theater.
Wow.
I also read that they actually have the shoe on display at the theater, which is actually like a museum now.
Yeah.
And I'll talk a little bit more about that later, about the museum. But it's supposedly still on display to this day.
Ew.
So I'm thinking that, like, I could very well be Little Gertie up in there too, you know?
Yeah, could very well be.
You know, spirits attached to items, right?
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Whenever you were like talking about stiletto, you said her name, Little Gertie, and then you said stiletto. I thought you were trying to say that her last name was stiletto, and I was like, oh, isn't that just
No, that was the murder weapon. I was like,
well, that's just a quinky name, but yeah, I got it. Okay, that's why.
I mean, I did come across her real name while I was doing my research, but I didn't put it in here because that's not what she went by, so I didn't think it was pertinent.
No, that's fine. Like I said, I just thought.
But I can tell you that it was not stiletto.
Okay.
It was not her last name.
It wasn't the quinky dink? Okay.
No. Another common spirit is one you hear of in paranormal cases time and time again, and that is the Birdcage Theater's very own Lady in White.
A lady in white.
I'm going to do a case on why it's always a lady in white.
There's always at least one.
Always a lady in white. Except this lady in white is a little unusual in the sense that she seems to be completely out of place. She's said to wear a bonnet, which is significant because the Birdcage was a pretty rough and tumble place pretty much from the time it opened, and the only women who wore bonnets in that day and age were considered like proper ladies.
Right.
So people who had class, and those kind of women didn't go into places like the Birdcage Theater. She's said to roam the hall and often travels in and out of the poker room. It's also been reported several times, mostly by employees, that she seems lost or unaware of anyone else's presence.
Aww.
They've claimed to see her standing directly in front of them, and she either just looks like right through them or she doesn't look at them at all. There's another spirit thought to technically haunt the Birdcage Theater, and that is the spirit of Carmeletta Gimmons. She unalived herself with arson in 1988,
Oh,
and her spirit has been said to actually roam right outside of the theater, like right outside of the theater.
okay.
There have also been reports of not only things being thrown, but also things disappearing and reappearing out of nowhere. One specific thing I read about was a poker chip. It seemed it seemed like it enjoyed a good game of peekaboo.
Oh,
It would vanish and reappear. There's even been reporting by the son of William Hunley, Bill Hunley, that the chip disappeared out of a bank vault, but later reappeared again.
wow. Okay. Just
Yeah, I read that like he had put it in the bank vault because of it, little
disappearing all the time.
disappearance act.
Yeah.
And then he actually had some people coming in to look at the chip, and then when he went to go get it, it wasn't there. But then when the people left, it reappeared.
Huh. I didn't want them to see it.
Apparently not.
Like, nope, you cannot lay your eyes on me today, sir. Or ma'am, I don't know.
There's no way to go over all the stories, incidents, reports, and experiences that have come in over the years about the theater, but man, if you're looking to catch activity, this place seems to be a pretty sure bet.
Hmm.
And I'm going to quickly share what is perhaps the most famous experience a guest has had at the theater, and that comes from a seance that took place in the 1980s. And that is the correct date. It is the 1980s. From what I understand, there were two different mediums involved in this, and the reason it was being performed is because it was believed that there were evil spirits residing in the theater. So they wanted to call them out, and seemingly it worked because it was said that a spirit began choking one of the mediums and only stopped choking the medium once the trance the medium was in was broken.
Ooh.
I know you're probably a little skeptical of this one, but it was noted and verified that the medium did in fact have bruising around her neck that was there for like over a month.
Dang. That's scary.
Yeah. The theater has been featured on many shows. Just to name a few, it's been featured on Fact or Faked Paranormal Files. That episode aired on November 30th, 2011. Ghost Adventures actually featured this location twice. The first episode aired on July 3rd, 2009, and the second aired in 2014. Ghost Lab also featured the theater in an episode in 2009. And Ghost Hunters also featured the theater in an episode that aired on October 11th, 2006. So it's definitely believed to be a place worth visiting and investigating.
Yeah, seems to be.
The reports of paranormal activity here have never stopped to this day. It's seemingly endless. If you're curious about the strange happenings at the theater, you too can go take a tour and see if you end up with any stories of your own. And even if you don't, which you most likely will, it's still been transitioned over the years after the swapping of several owners. It's kind of been transitioned into a time capsule.
Okay.
There's so many different um, artifacts and stuff from that time frame that they've collected and kind of brought into the theater to create this museum atmosphere. I looked at a lot of the pictures from there. It's so cool. Um, I will say too, like 100% worth the time to go check it out if you have a chance. I will post a link in the show notes for a website that provides tour information if that's something that you would be interested in.
That'd be cool to do. I want to do that.
I know, right? I love when I'm like, and I will say too, and then I say like nothing. It's like this prompt of woohoo, and then you're like, meow. Sorry about that. I just realized that I do that. It literally just occurred to me right now. Anyway, the next location we're going to talk about is the OK Corral. On October.
Corral.
On October 26th, 1881, a shootout, which would be credited as happening at the corral, but actually it took place a little ways away from the corral.
Okay.
But that is kind of what the corral is really known for, is the shootout, which is crazy since it didn't happen there. But anyways.
Yeah, that's a little strange that they would that it would be known for that, but okay.
Well, like I think it would just be because it was kind of like in an alley, or kind of I don't know. One source said it was in an alley, and another source said it was just kind of like in an open zone that didn't really have anything in it. So like that, I guess the real place that it happened was it close enough quarters to the corral to credit the corral, but it would have been kind of boring to just be like they were standing on an open road.
True. True.
They're standing in an alley.
Yeah, that's true.
Plus, it kind of boosted the OK Corral to the name that it kind of deserved in the long run. So,
All right.
anyways, the shootout would be credited, and I already said that. Okay, the lawmen of Tombstone, who at the time included and was led by Virgil, Morgan, and Wyatt Earp, as well as Doc Holliday, would square up against a group of outlaws, which included Ike and Billy Clanton, and Tom and Frank McClory. The exact reason for the shootout, from what I interpreted, from what I read, was simply that tensions had been building between the group for some time, and that just happened to be the day things would finally hit ahead. These men really did not like each other. I read that the outlaws felt like the Earps and Holiday were implementing rules that were kind of above their abilities to implement, and the Earps were convinced that the Clantons and the McClary gang were up to no good. This kind of resulted in the shootout. Although Virgil, Earp, and Doc Holliday were hurt in the shootout, none of the lawmen actually died.
That's good.
The same couldn't be said for the outlaws. During the shootout, both of the McClory brothers, as well as Billy Clanton, lost their lives.
Oh, no.
It's believed that the men involved in this shootout, or at least some of them, still haunt the corral to this day. People have reported things there, such as cold spots, hearing horses galloping, seeing apparitions of what appears to be cowboys with their guns drawn, a tall man wearing a flat-brimmed hat, and some people strongly believe that Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday themselves haunt the corral, even though neither of the men actually died there. But that doesn't mean that there's not something that they may be tied to there.
I mean,
so it's possible.
Yeah, see, I don't want to say like I hope they are, because I hope they're not like
stuck,
but
right.
That would be kind of cool to go there and interact with Doc Holliday or Wyatt Earp.
That'd be sweet. That would be interesting.
Another spirit believed to haunt the corral is that of Justice Jim Burnett. He was the justice of the peace for a town next to Tombstone called Charleston. Burnett was gunned down at the OK Corral by a man named William Green, who blamed Burnett for the death of his daughter and another little girl.
Oh.
His ghost has been described as a balding man with a gray and white beard. The OK Corral that exists today it's not the original building, because the original building burned down on May 25th, 1882, but a new one was built in the exact same location of the original and is able to be toured today.
Okay.
Not only can you visit the OK Corral, but you can also watch a full reenactment of the infamous gunfight happening daily. How awesome is that?
That would be awesome to see.
I read they do like 5 or 6 shows a day. I think it's from like 9 to 5 or something like that. Don't quote me on the days and times, but you can see it daily. I do know that's a fact. If you go, pay attention, because you might just catch a glimpse of some of the original participants in the shootout.
That'd be so cool. Again, I hope that they're not stuck. But if they are, it'd be really cool to see.
I'm not gonna lie, it would be cool. I mean, I would probably freak the hell out, because I'm not the ghost one in this duo. She is, but it would still be rad if it was like daylight and I could watch something really fun like SpongeBob right after. That'd be a really awesome experience.
Yeah.
The next location we're going to talk about
SpongeBob is her palate cleanser.
The next location we're going to talk about is the Buford House, which is about a 2-minute walk from the OK Corral. It was built by George Washington Buford in 1880. He and his wife Anne and their children lived there until 1888. Sadly, the Bufords lost 3 of their 7 children while living in this house.
Aww.
Since its construction, the house has always been lived in either as a residential location or a business. For example, most recently, it was a bed and breakfast. Let's talk about some of the spirits said to reside there. From what I read, there are 2 spirits known to reside there, and they are said to be quite angry. The first one we'll talk about is a woman. It's said she's an older woman. She's seen most often in one very specific room of the house, and she is often seen sitting in a rocking chair. However, she had made it very well known that that room is her space, and she does not like to share it. How does she let you know when you've overstayed your welcome? According to reports, she starts screaming, "Get out of my room," and she continues to yell it all night long until dawn once she starts.
Even if you leave a room?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because that would be, oh my God. It's weird because, like, in my head, I can just picture
Envision that happening.
A little old lady in a rocking chair. She's just like, "Get out of my room."
I think it's like you've seen that depicted in horror movies so many times, like time and time again, that it's such like it's been brought to life in your imagination.
It's creepy.
So to know that people have actually experienced that, not in a movie format, is like insane.
Okay, that's gonna drive me nuts. Sorry, y'all.
The second spirit is that of a man. There are some theories of who this man is based on some bones being found in the basement, but they are just that, theories. No one really knows for sure who the man is or who he was, but what the ones who have encountered him do know is that he is very disruptive and seems to be unsettled. He seems to not care for people being in the house any more than the female spirit does for people being in her room. He's noted as kind of a bully by some of the members of some of the paranormal investigating teams that have gone into the location. It's also noted that the man has no fear about showing himself whatsoever. People have reported seeing him in front of them, in mirrors. They've reported feeling and seeing him standing behind him. There's actually a picture of the man in a mirror captured by one of the team members of one of the investigation teams, but I'm not sure if I can share it due to copyright infringement, so if you want to see it, you can Google it. He's also been reported to turn lights on and off, and he sets off alarms. He's also seemingly not very nice to the women who have stayed there, but like in the sense of he likes to touch them. There's been reports of him rubbing women's necks, touching their hair, and groping them from time to time. Even the owner reported having her leg grabbed by a phantom cold hand. In fact, the spirit had become so aggressive, it's believed that this is one of the main reasons why the owner permanently closed the door, and it is still closed to this day. Another haunted bed and breakfast is the Bordello, located about 5 minutes away from the OK Corral. Important fact about Tombstone, it had its very own red light district, and for those that don't know what that means, it's kind of a location in town where the most scandalous of behaviors took place. Brothels, prostitution, illegal activity. Tombstone's red light district was mostly located on East Allen Street and East Fremont Street. The Tombstone Bordello B&B, said to be owned by Big Nose Kate, which if you don't know who she is, we'll talk more about her in our next location.
What now?
Big Nose Kate. She had a big nose.
I would be very offended if that's how people, like, Big Nose Kate over there.
That's what they called her.
Terrible.
We're going to talk more about her in our next location.
Okay.
Anyways, from what I read and understand, she actually built this bordello from the ground up, and she made it a point to not put it in the red light district, as she wanted it to be seen as upscale and for classier patrons. It was said that Kate treated her workers very well and wanted the best of the best. She owned several bordellos in Tombstone, as well as I put as well as a saloon, but I later found out that that's not true. She didn't actually own the saloon. So we're going to scratch that piece. That's not true. But she wanted this one to be different, and for the most part it was. Especially for the coal and silver miners who were hitting it big in the area at the time, they loved to frequent that bordello because it was, clean and nice.
Classy.
It had some class to it, yeah. Let's talk about who might have come to visit and never left this place. Luckily, the spirits of this B&B are said to be friendly.
Oh, good.
They've been seen all over the house, places like the rooms, hallways, and the main living space. It does seem to be most often reported that the spirit of a man is seen. It's said when he appears, you can see him in great detail. He too has been reported as being overly friendly, especially with the female guests, with the hair touching and the neck rubbing, but never aggressively. It's always been very gentle and sort of just enough to get their attention. It's believed the spirit belongs to one of the coal and silver miners that used to frequent the bordello when it still functioned as an entertainment spot for men. It seems there may be more than one spirit residing there, but for sure the miner is seen still to this day. If you'd like a chance to meet the friendly spirit yourself, you can book a room at this historic location. Information for that will be in a link attached in the show notes.
Sweet.
Our next location is a great segue into keeping my word on telling you more about who Big Nose Kate was. Mary Catherine, and I hope I say this right, Horny?
Horny?
Horny.
Oh, horny.
Horony. It's Hungarian. So I don't know if I pronounced it right or not. Horony, maybe? I'm going to say Horony. It's the only time in the thing I say it. So, but she was born November 7th, 1850, to Hungarian parents. Her father was a doctor. Sadly, both of her parents would pass away within a month of each other in 1865. Shortly after, Kate would run away and eventually would find herself working for none other than James Earp's wife, Nellie Bessie Ketchum Earp, as a prostitute.
Ooh, oh. Like, ooh. Oh.
Kate would get in trouble for this, and that would prompt her to leave, which is when she would cross paths with Doc Holliday.
Ooh.
According to Kate, her and Doc Holliday would go on to get married, despite their tumultuous relationship. I swear I can talk. It's usually her messing up the words. This is very unusual for me to be having this many errors in communication.
I'm terrible. Y'all just realize now I just can't talk. It is what it is. But her.
Yeah, I'm usually very well articulated, and I am just struggling tonight. I think it's because I'm thirsty.
I was gonna say I think it's because we're out here at night and
we're talking about ghosts at night.
And it's ghosties and
can't see George.
No.
But it said that they would stay together off and on until Doc died. While they were together, Doc accumulated quite a bit of money through gambling and whatnot, which is supposed to be how Kate was able to open the several bordellos that she opened. Kate actually ended up living until she was 91.
Ooh, wow.
Now that we have a quick history of who she was, and trust me, that was the briefest of brief rundowns of who she was. If you get the chance to look her up, I highly recommend it. This woman was absolutely fascinating. That's not what we're here for in this episode. We're talking about the ghosties.
Ghosties.
That brings us to Big Nose Kate's saloon.
Terrible.
Ran in the late 1880s. It was originally the Grand Hotel. For a while, it was the tallest building between St. Louis and San Francisco. It had 50 rooms and an upstairs dining room, which at the time was unheard of. It had tons of famous guests. Unfortunately, after just a couple of years, the hotel would burn down, leaving only the saloon of it still standing, and it began being used shortly after. It was frequented by guests such as, of course, Doc Holliday. He and all the Earps would visit there regularly. In fact, it's thought that this is the location that Big Nose Kate and Doc Holliday would participate in their affairs. The saloon had a janitor, or custodian, if you will, who was also the handyman, and that brings us to the first spirit thought to be in the saloon.
Oh.
This spirit is called the Swamper. He lived in the basement, and he had lots and lots of privacy down there. And he also had access to some of the silver mines because of the basement location. Nobody knew he had access to these silver mines. And it was discovered that the Swamper liked to collect silver. A lot.
Mm.
There are tons of report of paranormal activity from the saloon. People swear they see a ghost wandering the halls. They see the ghost on the stairs and have even caught ghosts in photographs. People even claim you can see a figure in the saloon postcard. They
Ooh.
hear people singing and talking in empty rooms. Silverware gets thrown, lights get turned off and on. Cowboys have been seen standing on the stairs. Cases of beer in the basement get knocked over when no one's down there. And again, one of the employees claims to have felt cold hands around her throat. Footsteps can be heard, malfunctioning electronics, blurs in cameras, and mannequins being moved or thrown.
Hmm.
If you want to see if you too can experience any of these strange happenings, and from what I read, they also have the best meal you can get in Tombstone.
Ooh.
So if you want some good
Good
food
old
while you're
meals.
ghost hunting,
Yeah.
you can go to Big Nose Kate's Saloon. It's still up and running to this day. And the last place I'm going to briefly talk about is Boot Hill Cemetery, or some resources. Did I just say Reese's? Oh my goodness. Some resources called it Boot Hill Graveyard. It was created in 1878.
Okay, hold up. Okay, sorry, I've been trying to find a good way to break into this, but okay, so Big Nose Kate's Saloon. That was Doc Holliday's one, right?
She was.
Okay, so you remember the one that I did, the Johnny Ringo one, where Morgan was supposedly killed in a saloon? I wonder if it was that saloon.
I don't think so. I think I Googled that. I don't think it was that same
It
saloon.
wasn't? Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't.
Hmm.
We'll Google it at the end, though. I'm almost at the end. But we'll
Sorry,
Google it
I was
before
just
we end
curious
it.
because
I mean, I'm curious now, too. So at the end of the episode, if you don't want to hang out while we do that, I'm sorry, but I'm going to Google it because now I want to know. But I would think that it would have told me that in my research. Because I would think that would have been a pretty big event to have happened there.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Like I was just curious
yeah.
because I knew he was killed
Yeah.
in a saloon, so I was like, well, I mean, Doc Holliday, and the Earps, and I was like, what?
Yeah, absolutely. It seemed like they were connected to pretty much everywhere in Tombstone in one way or another.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. It was created in 1878. This cemetery is the resting place to some of the most famous people in the West, such as we mentioned earlier, Billy Clanton and the McClure brothers. Obviously, there are a lot more people buried there than just them.
Right.
I think I read there are 300 graves there.
Ooh.
Perhaps one of the most often seen ghosts is that of Billy Clanton. In fact, there's actually a picture that is thought to have captured Clanton. And let me tell you, I've seen the picture, and it does look a lot like him. But it's also the clearest image of a ghost I've ever seen. Like, it looks like a person standing there. Like, it doesn't look... I mean, I don't know what I think a ghost should look like, other than the ones that I've seen throughout my life.
Yeah.
But in the picture, legitimately, it looks like just like a dude standing there. But it does look identical to what the pictures of Clanton looked like. I will say that. So I don't know on that one. Supposedly, it was taken while one of the tours was being given.
I'll have to look at that.
It's a pretty interesting picture. But people have reported seeing shadows, strange lights, and sounds coming from the cemetery at all hours of the day and night. There have been sightings of men and women there, and there have also been reports of gunfire and music. If you too want to see if you can catch a glimpse of any spirits there are tons of tours that you can take, and I will post a link that gives information on how you can take one of those in the show notes.
Nice.
And that was a really long one, and I'm really sorry, but, Tombstone, rich in history. It's hard to do a fast case on anything in Tombstone.
True.
But, yeah. That was my... And I know I left some stuff out. I know I did. There's lots of information I did not put in here because I didn't think it was necessarily important to the case, per se. But if there's something that you think was important to the case that I didn't put in here that you want to just jump in and say or add, please feel free. You will not offend us at all. Other than that, thank you guys for spending your time with us.
Yeah, thank you.
You're the best. You're our favorites.
That's so creepy.
what did my kids say in the car yesterday? Something about the next 24
enjoy
hours.
The next 24 hours.
Instead of having my daughter told us yesterday that instead of telling people to have a nice day, she was gonna start telling people to enjoy the next 24 hours. I thought that was very clever, and I really liked it. And I'm pretty sure I'm gonna also start saying that because it's fun.
And it's when it's said to you, it's a little creepy.
So I dare any of you guys, the next time somebody says, "Have a nice day," for you to just respond with, "Enjoy your next 24 hours."
Yeah, it's,
I mean, it means the same thing.
yeah, it sounds a little
wordplay.
bit more like
Ominous.
yes.
Threatening.
That's what
even.
I said to your daughter. I was like, that's a little ominous, but okay.
I thought it was creative. What's that other thing that people say now? Have the day you deserve.
Oh yeah,
Is that what it is?
Have the day you deserve. Yeah. Which I mean, I like that one.
I like that.
I like the other one too, but that one's really good because it's like
Yeah. But anyway, sorry. I know we were about to say bye, and then I got on a soapbox. Sorry.
Usually happens.
Yeah, almost always. But again, thank you guys for spending time with us. If you like our content, you like what we're doing, please give us a like and a subscribe, maybe even a share. We're on YouTube, just about anywhere else you can get your podcasts. If you have any comments, case suggestions, you want to come on the show, anything of that nature, please feel free to reach out. We will respond to you every time. It may not be automatically or immediately. It may take us a day or two, but we will respond, I promise. And other than that, Fallon, say something. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
No problem.
All right, that's it for us, you guys. We are
Render the darkness.
Ooh.
Bye. Let's go eat.